Hi there. Today's topic is about healing from childhood trauma and hurts. Whether you're healing from mental, emotional, verbal, physical, or sexual abuse, you deserve to let go of how the experience may be triggering your adult self and feeding into your imposter beliefs about who you are, why you're here, and what you're capable of. I'm going to approach this by discussing the question, is forgiveness the answer to healing? Hi, my name is Nancy Muller, and I'm so honored you've chosen to join me for this message because this topic is one of the topics that I struggled with the most in my life. And it wasn't until one of my teachers helped me answer this question about forgiveness that I was finally able to free my mind and release the negative, fear-based emotions that cropped up around my experience. Because growing up, I experienced mental, emotional, verbal, and physical abuse that escalated to sexual abuse by the time I was 12 years old. I was told that I was worthless, I would always be worthless, and that, along with my experiences, formed my beliefs about who I am, why I'm here, and what I was capable of doing. And if I had listened to that, I wouldn't be doing what I am today. There's a lot of scientific data to back up what I'll be sharing today, but rather than be pulled away from the topic at hand, I invite you to do some research or feel free to contact me with any questions you might have. So, the big question is forgiveness the answer to healing? Have you ever wondered that? Have you ever been told that? You have to forgive. If you want to heal, you have to forgive. Well, I don't know about you, but there was a time when wrapping my mind around the idea of forgiveness was like, it was a sticking point for me. Every time I thought about it, I came back to the same questions. How can I forgive when I'm still in pain about this? Why does someone get to force something on me and then I have to be the one to forgive them for what they've done? If I don't find a way to forgive, God won't be happy with me, and He will never forgive me for my thoughts and feelings towards these people. And that was the sticking point for me. God. That was the part that really just kept coming around for me. Anyone who's been raised with a religious mindset has been taught to adhere to the 10 Commandments. And I knew that I was continually breaking the commandment to honor thy father and thy mother. My beliefs were strong in this knowledge because that's how I was raised. And I feared God's wrath because I continually broke this commandment on a daily basis. I mean, hello, the very people that I was depending on to protect me were the people that I needed protection from. So what was I supposed to do? Of course, it wasn't until I was in my 30s that someone suggested I read a little farther. And that's when I discovered, and I'm paraphrasing here, that religion also teaches that parents should be worthy of being honored. Well, that was information I wish I'd have had when I was little, but you don't know what you don't know, right? That's a whole nother subject. That's a whole nother episode. So as I got into my 30s, I was still angry. But I didn't know I was angry because by that time, I'd stopped keeping the family secrets and started talking about my childhood experiences. I believed that if I talked about them, it gave me power over what had happened. Wanting power over what had happened gave me the incentive to train in the martial arts. I thought if I could fight like Bruce Lee, no one would ever lay a hand on me again. That seemed to be the answer. Because when you're raised with violence, violence seems to be the answer. We don't know what we don't know, again. But that meant staying in the physical energy of my memories. Sure, I could fight. Sure, I could defend myself. Sure, I could kick someone's ass if the need arose. But after a few years, that wasn't working either. So, what's next? The memories were still triggering emotional responses that fed into my imposter syndrome because no matter how many belt levels I ascended to in karate, no matter how many certifications, degrees, information, knowledge, successes, or accolades from others, there were times when I could still be reduced to that frightened, angry, sad little girl. And that frustrated me. And then the movie Forrest Gump came out. I went to the movie with my husband and 2 daughters. And when we returned from the movie, I immediately went straight from the car into the house, upstairs, locked myself in my room because I thought I was losing my mind. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I felt like something was just coming over me. I just did not know what was wrong. My heart was pounding, and I felt a fear like I had never known before. I called my brother and told him what was going on with me. He told me that there must have been something in the movie that triggered a memory for me. And that's when it hit me. The scene in the movie where Forrest and Jenny are throwing rocks at the little white house. And Forrest says, "Sometimes there just aren't enough rocks." That's my best Forrest Gump impression. That scene alluded to the abuse in Jenny's childhood. But I insisted to my brother that couldn't be what was happening. How could I be feeling like I was falling apart? I mean, hadn't I already dealt with all this? After all, I'd overcome the memories and experiences of my childhood by talking about it, learning to defend myself, and teaching other women how to defend themselves. I shared my story and why I thought it was so important for us to feel empowered through self-defense. I mean, I really felt like that was my calling, that this is what I was meant to do. I was not quiet about it. And that's when he shared something with me. He said, "Nance, you haven't really dealt with it. When you're feeling strong, you talk about it and you use the physical strength you've learned to give you a false sense of having dealt with it. But what you really do is keep your emotions and feelings in a box, like this virtual little box inside your mind. When you're feeling strong, you open the box, take a look at what's inside, examine them, announce that you have the power over them. Then you put the box away until the next time you need to pull it out and look inside." And usually those were times when I'd be up on stage talking about how I had overcome. Well, what he said, that pissed me off. But that's also what led me to level up in my martial arts, from the physical aspect to a higher level of consciousness. At that time, I also chose to work with therapists, Reiki masters, life coaches, hypnotherapists, and spiritual and metaphysical masters. That's when I learned that understanding replaces forgiveness in the mind of the master. That's when I learned to go beyond the religious beliefs that were holding me back to the spiritual aspect of who I am. Most people who are still steeped in their religious beliefs have unknowingly created a parent-child relationship with God. We see God as a punishing God, someone who sits high in the clouds and looks down and decides you're right, you're wrong, you're going to get punished. That's not good, because that's not what God is all about. Just like we know our parents will punish us when we do something wrong, we live in a life of cause and effect when we think that way, meaning we have to do X in order to have this, or have people think that we're a good person, that we deserve to have good things. We want to feel better about ourselves, but we've been taught that the only way to do that is to learn to forgive. But the belief that forgiveness is the only way to heal emotional triggers actually takes away our ability to feel empowered around our healing. When you realize that understanding replaces forgiveness in the mind of the master, it opens you up to a whole new level of thinking. Because with understanding also comes compassion. When you can replace forgiveness with understanding, now you can ask yourself some questions. Questions like, do I believe that there are people who abuse their power? Do I believe that there are people who have been hurt and are now in a position to pass those hurts on to others? And if I believe that's true, can I also believe that the person who has caused me hurt could be one of those people? If you can answer yes to those questions, you now have a way of reframing how you see that person. Now remember, compassion doesn't mean you agree, condone, or accept what they've done or how they treat others. It's not the same thing. It simply means you can now see that these are people that have been hurt. There are people in the world who are hurting, and the only way they know how to live with what's going on inside of them or what's happened to them is to pass it on to others. This creates the cycle of abuse and will continue until someone learns to break the cycle, which may be what you can do here with some of this information I'm sharing today. This frees you in a way that empowers you to move beyond the belief that forgiveness is the only way to heal yourself. This puts you in a completely new energy for how you can see yourself and live your life. Now you begin to shift your beliefs from a victim mindset to being an empowered super being. How does that feel? Super being. As your energy raises, you begin to see yourself in a new light. And this opens you up to being a more empowered you. This feeling of empowerment will help you let go of your negative, fear-based beliefs because you no longer believe that you must give any part of you away, including forgiveness. Instead of sharing your story from a me too aspect that keeps you in a victim mindset, you'll move from me too to moved beyond it. You'll go beyond your story of what happened, and your experience then becomes your credentials for why you're so fabulous, because you are truly fabulous. Can you feel the difference from within yourself when you say me too versus move beyond that? It's completely different. It's so much more empowering. By the way, here's my definition of fabulous. A woman who knows how fabulous she is a woman who has learned that the hurt and the trauma she's experienced in the past will never define her. Because it's not what happens to us that defines who we are, but what we do with what happens. I mean, if I'd allowed all of those negative self-beliefs to overtake me, I wouldn't be doing the work that I'm doing today. Now that you have some information you may not have had or thought about before, I ask you, is forgiveness the answer to healing? Everyone has the right to come to their own conclusions in their own time. Only you can make that decision. But remember, anything new that comes into your awareness, we either easily accept as truth or we fight against it. It's not until we have this knowing, it's not until it's not until the information becomes part of our knowing that we're able to actually apply the information. So when we're holding on to our anger, resentment, or feeling like a victim, and those feelings are deeply ingrained in us, it can be difficult to let go of because that's what we're so used to feeling. As odd as it sounds, letting go of something that doesn't feel good can be just as difficult as wanting to bring in something that does feel good, because change of any kind brings up fear within the mind. I can also tell you from personal experience and well-documented information that if you do decide to replace forgiveness with understanding, it will change how you show up in everything that you do. People around you, family, friends, coworkers, they're going to see the change in you. They may not know what it is, but they'll know something is different about you. And that will cause them to have to reevaluate how they interact with you. This means that if they want to continue being in your life, they'll also have to change. And remember, change brings on fear all the time. And if they're not ready to look at their own choices, they'll want to blame you. They'll say you've changed. You're different. You aren't the same person that you used to be. And you know what? They'll be right. They will be correct. The only thing you have to decide is whether or not you like being this newfound super being, or you want to go back to the way you were before in an effort to continue making others happy instead of yourself. That's something that you want to think about, because remember, life is all about choices. I'd love to know if this information has shifted how you now answer the question, is forgiveness the answer to healing? Have you gotten any new kind of awareness or knowing from this message? Please feel free to leave your comments, and if you feel moved to share this information, please share this video with others. I also invite you to subscribe to our channel so you can continue to learn how to recognize and eliminate the imposter syndrome. In the meantime, this is Nancy Muller saying ciao for now.